One day down, and by the time we're done this evening, one more day to go of testing in Malaysia. Who's in good shape and who has work to do as we begin the countdown to 2025? Welcome along to After the Flag, day 2 at the Sepang test in Malaysia. My name's Louis Suddaby. Alongside me with his full undivided attention, as always, is Jack Appleyard. We'll be trying to analyse who's looking good, who's not so strong at this stage, who has work to do, and who is ready for the first race of 2025. And after the drama of the first day, Jack, where of course we lost 2 riders, so we thought, that since became 3, as we'll update you on in a moment. Some calm feels like it's descended over Sepang today.
Well, it couldn't have got more hectic than yesterday, as you rightly say. Unfortunately, if you weren't with us yesterday and somehow you managed to miss it, the world champion Jorge Martin, after a crash just 14 laps into yesterday's opening day of the Sepang test, has ruled him out for the entirety of it. Ralph Hernandez joined him on the sick list, more than an hour later, and then right at the end of the day, a unfortunate, cruel accident that really shouldn't happen to Fabio Giannantonio during the practice start session, pulling a wheelie. So happy with his day's work, and he had every right to be. We were singing his praises in the show, and then after that wheelie, as the front wheel landed, he touched the front brake, folded, collarbone broken, and he's en route back to Europe to get it plated. He's going to miss the remainder of this and the Buriram test. Hopefully we'll see him back in Thailand for the opening round of the year, but it was a bruising start to the Sepang test. Fortunately, less so today.
Yeah, less so today. No riders that we're aware of at this stage have joined the injured list today, although we will have more on those injury stories as we go through the show. Massimo Rivola will be speaking to us, and Jack will also be heading down to pit lane to speak to Pablo Nieto to get the full story of Fabio Giannantonio. Once again, Kiko Giles and Elliott York will be joining us live from Barcelona to bring us expert analysis and some of your comments too. Kiko, over to you.
Always good to be by your side, guys. Hello and welcome to MotoGP HQ over here in Barcelona. What a day it was yesterday. I mean, it doesn't get much more dramatic than that. 3 riders out. Let's hope today is just a little bit more peaceful. Elliott York alongside me. El, where do we start with yesterday? I mean, it was a huge day in terms of the championship story, but today's a new day and new times and fast times of that coming in.
Yeah, interesting analysis to get stuck into today. We've got Moradelli at the top of timesheets, of course. Aldeguer going great guns again, improving his time lap by lap, minute by minute in the session. The Pramac Yamaha boys getting used to a new team. Miller and Oliveira, they're going well as well. All 4 Yamahas inside the top 10. So interesting stuff to get stuck into between now and the end of the show. So I'm looking forward to it, mate.
It's going to be good. We want to hear from you as well. Join the conversation, join the debate, have your say right across all the social media platforms. You don't want to miss a lap, you don't want to miss a beat of MotoGP in 2025. Back to you guys in Sepang.
Thanks, Kiko. Thanks, Elliott. We'll be back with you later in the show. Let's pick up then with the big story of yesterday. Jorge Martin ruled out of the Sepang test. At this stage, we don't know whether he's going to be missing the Buriram test, although I think we can consider it highly likely. The hope is, of course, that he can be back in time for the season opener. We caught up with Fabiano Sterlachini earlier on. If you didn't catch that on the Midday Live, it's available on MotoGP's social media channels. Upheaval for Aprilia's pre-season plan, but they're trying to make the best of a bad job today.
Yeah, absolutely. Lorenzo Savadori has been drafted in to try and help out, but as Marco Bezzecchi, who was speaking to us at lunchtime, outlined, both Jorge Martin and Marco Bezzecchi had the same items to try, but obviously Aprilia, goes without saying, would have wanted 2 voices, 2 opinions on that rather than just the one. But for him, his plan hasn't changed all that much. You're going to hear from Massimo Rivola in a second, and not when speaking to us, but with the journalists that have made the trip across. A lot has been made on social media of him basically putting the blame on those round black things on the back of the machine. He came out and said it wasn't rider error, it wasn't a machine error. We've checked all the data. Of course, we must remember he had 2 separate crashes in the space of 3 laps, basically. First on entry into the opening corner, off throttle on the right-hand side when it flipped him over the top, and then the more severe one on his next exit with those exact same tyres, this time on the left-hand side. But to try and put some balance into the debate from not only speaking to Michelin, but more so to a couple of members of other teams as well. A lot of made was yesterday on the medium rear tyre. Now, yesterday was considerably cooler than I can ever remember it being at Sepang, and that medium tyre is around 3.5 seconds a lap slower than what the soft can do. It is rock hard, rock solid. And that looks like a cold tyre crash. A couple of people were saying that, look, the boss of Aprilia, Massimo Rivola, he's not going to come out and say that it was a problem with my bike. He's certainly not going to come out and say that it was a problem with his new star signing, the world champion. He's going to look after his own. So it's no surprise that he said that. It's up for debate, and I don't think we'll ever get an answer as to exactly what happened. But there's always two sides to a story. As Rivola blames and points the finger in one direction, I think it's worth adding a little bit of context in there as well, that a lot of riders yesterday, in particular the rookies, decided to make their lives as easy as possible and start the day on the soft tyre and just do lap after lap after lap, minimising the risk. Aprilia opted not to do that and to opt for the harder option, rear tyre, and clearly it stung.
Yeah, ultimately, the cause of the crash is kind of moot now, isn't it? The damage is done for Jorge Martin. The focus now, of course, for the world champion is to get himself fully fit in time. Ideally, of course, for the first race of the season in Buriram in a few weeks' time. The hope, of course, remains that he may be able to head out to Buriram next week, but that seems unlikely for now. As Jack mentioned, right late last night before we left the circuit, Massimo Rivola came to speak to the world's media and to speak to us to try and give his idea and to try and put some context on what happened to his star rider.
Massimo, the worst possible start to 2025 for you and Jorge and the team. Just firstly, update us on Jorge's condition. How is he?
Jorge, after the concussion, let's say the protocol keep him for 24 hours on the hospital, and when he will be released tomorrow afternoon, he will fly as soon as possible, actually in the evening, in Europe, in Barcelona, to get surgeries on the hand, on the right hand and on the left foot. So a bit of everywhere.
Very early days in terms of recovery time. Do you know what it could be?
It's always difficult with this kind of heroes, because for a normal person, you should not even think about the first race, but with these kind of guys, maybe we can see him on a test in Thailand. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure Jorge will do his best, and we will support as much as we can. But a bit of time is needed.
How likely do you think it is that we'll see him at the test in Buriram, though?
Today is a bit difficult to be optimistic, but it's a bit early also. So let's see how the surgery goes. I'm sure it will be in super professional hands, and so we must be positive.
This pre-season was billed as the most important in Aprilia's history. How has today affected that?
Yeah, we said also that the team launch that the phase one was the most important to know each other, the bike, and having maybe zero time to do it, it makes the challenge even more tricky and interesting. But we are not a team that start crying forever, and Jorge isn't the same. So we'll fight for sure.
The ultimate goal, of course, is to be world champion at the end of the year. Just how difficult is that going to be if we don't see Jorge at all in pre-season?
That is not the thought. It was not the thought before the test, and not even now, obviously. Still, the goal is to know, let's say, to know each other as quick as possible. I know now this is a problem for sure. It's also a problem that even Raul, again in Sepang, was so unlucky. And he will also, I know that he is going to fly soon to get the surgery. So a lot of work on the shoulders of Marco on our side and of I on Trackhouse side.
You mentioned Marco, just finally looking at the upcoming final days here. How much importance, how much pressure is now on his shoulders to steer this project forward?
Yeah, but to be honest, I'm really happy about the job he did today. We are quite impressed about his method and his feeling is quite sensible, and it was fast. Obviously, we did a different program from many others, but we are quite happy. Now we need to continue. These 2 more days are very, very important because Jorge need to get the benefit of Marco's job.
Thanks, Massimo.
Thank you.
Yeah, an understandable sense of dejection and disappointment at Aprilia at the end of the day yesterday. But of course, they're doing their level best to try and make the best of a bad situation. Of course, 2 riders down at the end of yesterday's action, with Raul Fernandez also ruled out, also before we'd even reached lunchtime. Now, Aprilia have taken some action to try and get as much data as they can. They've brought in Lorenzo Savadori, of course, was here as test rider and did run at the shakedown over the course of last weekend. He's now been brought in to the factory team to also lend his opinion on some of the new parts, and Aprilia have plenty of them to try and give them the best possible direction. But of course, that wasn't the only injury story yesterday. As we mentioned, from an Aprilia point of view, Ralph Hernandez and Jorge Martin both ruled out. VR46, though, they had their own story of hard luck to tell by the time the day was finished yesterday. Now, when we were on the air, of course, there was no sense of what was going on with Fabio Di Giannantonio because we saw him go out on track for his practice start. But as Jack explained to us earlier on, Fabio Di Giannantonio, having completed his practice start, tried to pop a wheelie on the way out of turn 4 towards turn 5. Crashed then at turn 5, which was a corner he'd crashed at earlier in the day, in a crash that myself and Jack Appleyard actually saw close up as we were waiting outside the medical centre just by the outside of turn 5 to try and wait for some updates on Jorge Martin. So a second crash of the day at turn 5 for Fabio Di Giannantonio. This one, though, caused a fracture to his left collarbone, and as a result of that, Fabio Di Giannantonio is out of the rest of this test. Here is the first crash. As mentioned, you can just see the timestamp on your screens there, shortly before midday. So that was a crash that came without any real damage for the third of Ducati's factory riders. Of course, we have to describe him as Fabio Di Giannantonio on the GP25 this season. But a second crash, which I believe you're going to see very, very shortly, came after the session had finished. Di Giannantonio going down, and that was the crash that did the damage to his left collarbone. To get the very latest then on Fabio Di Giannantonio and how VR46 are trying to bounce back from the disappointing point of yesterday, we can head down to pit lane where Jack Appleyard has made his way. Jack, over to you.
Yeah, I was hoping to be able to bring you an interview with Pablo Nieto or someone from VR46. It had been arranged, but unfortunately, very last minute, Pablo's been dragged away into a meeting, potentially, I imagine, about next steps with regard to Fabio Di Giannantonio, because, of course, he is, for the very first time this year, contracted as a Ducati rider. Started yesterday on the 2025 for the very first time, and as you've been describing, as you've just seen during that practice start session, a wheelie gone wrong. Nobody will be more red-faced than Fabio himself. I managed to speak with Pablo earlier on this afternoon, where he described it just as an unfortunate situation. Instead, at the moment, on the right-hand side of the box, we've got Michele Pirro, who is stepping in, and as you can see, he is busy doing his work, trying to get Ducati as ready as possible. But the good news, at least for the VR46 concern, is that right now, with only 16 minutes remaining of this session, Franco Morbidelli is going pretty well, fastest at the moment, and he's just about to exit on, as you can see, brand new rubber on the front, brand new rubber on the rear. Is this going to be potentially the very first 156 of the test? I'm sure that Frankie is going to be pushing to the maximum. He's spoken to us at length last year about the key area he needs to improve is on the time attack, and he said that that was going to be his focus throughout the course of this three-day test. Of course, tyres are limited, meaning that the optimal soft compound rear tyres are not plentiful enough for them to just go out and time attack again and again and again. But this one of the very few opportunities for Frankie Morbidelli to try and work on that time attack. So far, so good for him. He's a 156 on the way. Take a look at the timing screens in around 4 minutes' time, and we'll see.
Yeah, currently Frankie Morbidelli quickest on a 157.210. Can he break that magical 156 barrier? Thanks for the moment, Jack. We'll be back with him shortly. Some news to bring you, though, because we have been keeping an eye on the timing screens while hearing from Jack. We have had a crash for Marc Marquez, who is currently on our timing screens just inside the top 14. There he is on a 158.447. 14th place, Marc Marquez. He has just gone out on track and had a crash, but we understand he is okay. Now, one of the stories of the test so far has been the upturn, it would appear, in performance and fortunes for Yamaha. You might have seen us catch a quick word with Gino Borsoi from Pramac at the end of this afternoon's social media live update, and he gave us 2 thumbs up to indicate that things are going well from his side of things. And certainly, if you look at Fabio Quatararo and Yamaha as a whole, with all 4 of them pretty competitive, there does appear to be a real step forward taking place there. To have a closer look at what's happening, as we just quickly have a look inside the Ducati box, and confirmation there that Marc Marquez is okay in that throng of people. You can just see Marc Marquez's right knee there as he sits in his factory Ducati box. He obviously did bring that bike back after the crash that he had around about 2 or 3 minutes ago. But as mentioned, we can head back to HQ in Barcelona to take a close look at Yamaha and try and work out just how much they have improved. Kiko Giles and Elliott York are standing by to take a close look at the Japanese brand who are hoping to rise back up the order this year. Kiko.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, we really are. And the interesting thing was yesterday, we actually had a look at the lap times, but it's more than just Fabio Quatararo. It's more than just Alex Rins, who's actually just had a technical issue at turn 9 that's just come up on our screens here. It's about Pramac Yamaha. All new for them in 2025. They moved from Ducati in that long-standing partnership over to, as you can see, Yamaha. This is all of your rider changes in 2025. There's a lot of them. Where do we start? Well, let's start with Pramac. Down here on the side of Mr. Elliott York, Miguel Oliveira and Jack Miller. 2 riders who have got an abundance of experience in not just the top class, but across an array of manufacturers. Don't forget, Miguel Oliveira, a winner at KTM. Jack Miller, a winner on Ducati. And a winner, don't forget, in that crazy wet race in 2016 on a Honda. And a Honda back then, which wasn't quite working for everyone else. These are the stats. But beyond this, Yamaha are really serious. We've seen that they've got a plan. It's well documented that they're throwing parts at it, but in a calculated way. But the key is 2 extra bikes on the grid for 22 Grand Prix a year. That's going to be pivotal.
2 new chassis, swing arm as well on these 2 bikes as well, not just in the factory garage. So Miller and Oliveira are testing new parts for Yamaha. They've got the slightly adapted rear new tail unit as well, which is potentially making a difference to the rear grip, which is where they were really struggling last year. But look back to the Barcelona test with Jack Miller especially. He was 2.2 seconds off the best time. He was slower than a couple of rookies as well in Aldeguer and Agura. And I think we were all worried, including potentially Jack Miller as well, going into the winter, how much this is going to affect him. But after the winter break, he's come back and said the Yamaha is the best front-end feel that he's ever had on a MotoGP bike. Remember, he spent a few years at Ducati and they had a pretty good bike as well. So good news for Miller. He was up inside the top 10. I think he's dropped just outside that now. I know he's P9 again. So Miller's going very, very well. And Miguel Oliveira as well as testing all these new parts, the swing arm and the chassis for Yamaha, potentially new front aero as well. Oliveira has already beaten his time from last year on the Aprilia in the Sepang test. He's a 10th ahead of that into the 157 bracket. He didn't go into the 157s last year. So really impressive stuff from these 2 guys. As you say, Kiko, very experienced in MotoGP, winners on different brands of motorcycle, bringing a wealth of experience over to Yamaha. And that's only going to help Yamaha progress this year, which is the main goal in 2025. And so far, it looks really good.
And just as a caveat, let's not forget, Fabio Quatararo is the leader of this project, but he's only ever raced a Yamaha. So he's only got that sensation that he's had before. And from a rider perspective, that's very difficult to then implement a change into something that you don't actually physically know how it feels in compared to other manufacturers. These 2 guys, no problem there. Lots of experience. It's put the best bits together. Don't forget, get your questions sent in, particularly about this topic of Pramac Yamaha, but about the entirety of the test. We're here. It's an open book. Please make sure you do join us. But back on that, I mean, this is a lineup. It's like that push towards a classic Yamaha setup. Your absolute top team, but also you've got your independent team. Talk about the huge for Pramac in the huge hope for Pramac in 2025. So, you know, this is not just for Yamaha, but for Pramac. When it was announced they're leaving Ducati, okay, why are they doing that? But so far, not so bad.
Well, exactly that. It's a brand new challenge, not only for the 2 riders, but the whole team as well, getting used to a new bike. You can't underestimate how difficult that is. So for them to be both inside the top 10 so far, testing new parts, getting used to the YZR-M1 from the Ducati in terms of the team, and the 2 riders obviously adapting from the KTM in Miller's circumstance and the Aprilia in Oliveira's circumstance, then it really is impressive stuff from both riders.
As you can see on your screen, there's technical issues for Alex Rins. We did just bring you that just before we started talking about how good the Yamaha have been, but we're in testing. So actually, that's what testing's for. You're going to have problems, but it's better to have them here than at the Grand Prix. For sure, Yamaha are on their way. Not sure we can say the same about Honda. That is a bigger question mark. Obviously, we had Yamaha well up inside the top 10 at this Grand Prix. Don't forget, Sepang last year, both riders inside the top 10 and also in qualifying, making that step last year. But from here in MotoGP HQ in Barcelona, back to Sepang, where we hoped for a quieter day, but it just got a little bit busier. Over to you, Lewis and Jack, wherever you are, probably in pit lane somewhere.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Honda just at the end of there. Honda have just popped up on our screens because Joan Mir has now had a technical problem. As I just glanced outside the window over to our left, saw the yellow light panel waving. Joan Mir has stopped on the main straight. As mentioned, it is testing, so don't read too much into that. That's not the sign of any clear reliability problem. But Yamaha are the topic at the moment, and for good reason, because Fabio Quatararo has been inside the top 3 on both days so far. He currently sits second, and to try and work out how optimistic Yamaha are indeed feeling, we can cross down to Jack in pit lane for some thoughts. He's with Yamaha's team boss, Maya Muragali. Jack, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. Down here outside the Yamaha box where, as you say, contrasting fortunes at the moment. Alex Rins, you spotted on our cameras, just coming back into the box with a technical issue. Fabio Quatararo at the moment out on brand new tyres, but it's been a relatively positive start to 2025 for Yamaha. We've seen an abundance of new parts, and Maya Muragali joins us now. Maya, I've just said a positive start to 2025. From speaking to both Jack and Miguel, who had the chance to try the bike in Barcelona, and then the updated one here, they noticed a big step. Have Fabio and Alex noticed that same step?
The bike that Jack and Oliveira tested in Barcelona were a step behind Fabio's and Alex's bikes. Now, yeah, almost the same. But yeah, as you know, we are never used to make drastically change. It's always consistent updates, and you know, we also came 2 days before all the others, and this gave us some opportunity to work on the setups, to compare things, and so far the only thing we can say that we are faster than last year. So, but I would like to wait until tomorrow night to have a clear idea of where, yeah, basically from where we are.
Of course, I think that the key battle for Yamaha is to try and close that gap to where KTM and Aprilia are in terms of fighting for the podium places at this current moment. I know you want to wait until tomorrow, but we'd quite like to know now. Do you think you've managed to get closer to KTM and Aprilia?
Yeah, but if you check the results so far, they are positive. But as I said before, we had the advantage to come thanks to the concession earlier. So we are for sure in a better setup situation compared to the others. We need to wait. I can repeat that if we compare what we did last year in the same day and also yesterday, we are faster. So it's positive.
The introduction of 2 new bikes, the introduction of Max Bartolini. I've seen 3 different chassis across the 2 boxes, as well as Alex Rins exits over our shoulder. Is this all the impact of Max? The fact that one of the chassis in particular looks quite radically new compared to what Yamaha have been used to trying. Does this all come from Max? Does it all come from this new European mentality?
I miss part of the question because of the noise, sorry.
The 3 new chassis that I've counted in particular, is this all?
No, there were 2.
I've seen one with a bit of bonding as well, potentially.
Yeah, but just because 2 are the same with a different color, and 1 is different, yeah.
But that different one in particular is quite radically new. Is this down to the addition of Max Bartolini, of this new European attitude?
We are just following what we've been able to do at the end of last year, where the results start to get better. Basically, we are just following that path that has been positive. So that's the direction that we took last year, and we are keep working on that direction.
Just finally, a lot of fans have been asking the question, V4, when are we going to see it, Mayo?
When it will be ready.
Any time update, any timeline?
No, for sure it's impossible to say anything. For sure we would like to go on track as soon as possible, but we will do that when we will be ready.
Thanks, Mayo. Good luck. There we go. Great to be able to chat with Mayo Meregali. And just before I leave you as well, we mentioned that new chassis as Fabio Quatararo makes his way back into the box and nod of the head. Look at the eyes there of Fabio. The eyes always give you an impression of exactly how a rider's feeling. And you have to say, that is a positive look on Fabio Quattararo's face. I'm going to try and see if someone somewhere has got a time screen to be able to tell us how good that lap was. I'm going to guess by the smiles in the Yamaha box, that was pretty good indeed. Just come with me 1 second before I hand back. I'm going to show you this new chassis that I was talking about, which is on Jack Miller's bike at the moment up in the box. I'll quickly just run in and give you an idea of the time that he's just set. It was a fast one from Fabio Quattaro, 57.3. So stick with us here, because this right here is this brand new chassis. As you can see, the welding here on this right-hand side is quite a bit different to what we've seen previously as well. It comes up far higher from what we've seen before. Right here, normally it's down here, but the fact that they've moved it up is certainly a sign that they're trying to do something very, very different down at Yamaha. Max Bartolini, who we've spoken about, the man that came in last year, was so highly thought of at Ducati and throughout the paddock as well. He really is the man that is driving them forward, and we can see by the lap times today, by Mayo's comments just then as well, that Yamaha really are coming, and I do feel that 2025 could be the year that we finally see them return back on a more regular basis fighting at the front.
Yeah, as you say, Jack, I think the challenge for Yamaha this year is to try and get into that group that are chasing Ducati. If Ducati do have an advantage at the rest of the field, certainly to try and join that group with KTM and Aprilia must be their aim this season. At the moment, cautious reason for optimism, but I don't think anyone at Yamaha is counting their chickens just yet. Mayo Meregali making that very good point that they had a head start with their running in the shakedown. At the moment, for Marc Marquez, it looks like the end of his day, though. Certainly with 2 minutes to go, this is his bike returning to the box. Now, Marc Marquez has had a crash, as we mentioned, late this afternoon. It's been a crash apiece, actually, for the factory Ducati riders. Earlier on this morning, Pekka Bania, he went down at turn 15. Marc Marquez this afternoon has had a crash of his own. Both of the factory Ducati riders pretty optimistic, weren't they, at the end of yesterday? They're kind of keeping everything in perspective. They know full well that the 2025 Ducati isn't going to be fully refined at this stage. They can see clear reasons for optimism and clear steps forward with it. But of course, at this stage, they haven't got the package fully tuned. And there's no coincidence when you look at the timing screens at the moment. The Ducatis that are ruling at the top of the standings are the GP24s from last year. Frankie Moradelli, who is currently fastest, Alex Marquez and Fermin Aldeguer once again, as Elliott mentioned earlier on, having a really impressive day once again, the rookie on the Grini Ducati GP24, all inside that top four. So having picked up a motorcycle that won the World Championship last season, and they're of course armed with plenty of data, they're able to immediately put that onto the racetrack and just get on with improving their own riding styles on those bikes. And Aldeguer's 157.545, I think, will catch plenty of attention up and down the paddock. The young Spanish rookie is having a fine test so far. Of course, also worth pointing out, he ran on track during the shakedowns. We take a look at Marc Marquez. Of course, has plenty of Ducatis to work with down there, and will certainly have one of them at his disposal for a practice start. And given that he was sharing a joke there with his new crew chief, Marco Rigamonti, clearly whatever crash Marc Marquez didn't disrupt his mood too much. Marc Marquez will end the day in 14th place. One or two riders are still out on circuit looking to make a last-ditch improvement. Pekka Bania is not one of them. He's getting set for his practice start. He is currently 5th, and we'll take a very close look at the full standings in just a moment. Checkered flag is waving. And 22 riders we saw out on track today with the introduction to the test of Lorenzo Savadori and Michele Pirro in for Jorge Martin and Fabio Di Giannantonio, respectively. But at the end of the day, The story once again is of GP24s from Ducati, the best bike of last year. At the moment, very early stages, still looks like the bike to beat this year, with Frankie Moradelli, Alex Marquez and Fermin Aldeguer inside the top 4. Checkered flag is waving for Alex Rins, who's about to come through the final corner now, and across the line Alex Rins takes the checkered flag in 13th place. But as we get set to take a look at the results very, very shortly, we can head down once more time to Jack, who is right outside Ducati.
Box, because this is the perfect opportunity to show you this 2025 machine and the differences between the two. Just firstly, look here at the downwash ducts, the side pods, and the size of them compared to what we've seen previously with the GP24 on the left-hand side here. Also on the back, you might be able to see the black attachments there. That again, another of the updates compared to what we've seen from 2024. And this chassis that Pekka Bania is using is slightly revised and different as well. We believe this will have the 2025 engine in it. You might be able to just see there, just at the top of the chassis, it's slightly sort of taken a little bit of aluminium away compared to what we see on the GP24 over here. So those are the biggest differences in what we see. In particular, the much bigger side pods. This is the 24. It's quite clearly smaller. The adjustments that they've made to the rear seat unit as well, and that new chassis that Bagnaia believes is a step in the right direction. This, of course, you would imagine will have the 2025 engine in there, which they managed to just about work their way around yesterday. And just before I leave you and we do the results, we of course do see the crashed GP25 of Marc Marquez here, the crash damage down the left-hand side of the number 93's machine. That's his first in Ducati red, and just knowing how hard Marc likes to push to the limits, I doubt it will be his last.
Yeah, it's the way Marc Marquez works, isn't it? Push past the limit and then work your way back. So he's going to 11 tenths before he makes his way to 10 tenths. Marc Marquez then ended the day in 14th place, 1.2 seconds down. And we can show you now where everybody shook out at the end of day 2 of this Sepang test. So Frankie Moradelli for VR46 on board his Ducati quickest. Fabio Quatararo once again inside that top 3 ahead of the Grini duo of Alex Marquez and Fermin Aldeguer. Pekka Bania 5th ahead of Joan Mir, who lifted himself up into 6th in the final hour of the day. Pedro Costa first, KTM 7th. From Miguel Oliveira, Marco Bezzecchi and Jack Miller. All manufacturers set a 157 today. Brad Bender 11th from Johan Zarco, Alex Rins and the aforementioned Marc Marquez after his late fall. Luca Marini in 15th place. Maverick Vinales and Elliott York ended up line astern on pretty much level times in the mid 158, 16th and 17th respectively, although Elliott York had what looked on the face of it like a pretty tricky day getting himself up to that 158.5. Aldeguer in 18th place, continuing his steady adaptation to MotoGP ahead of Augusto Fernandez for Yamaha and their test team. Sonat Chantra in 20th place from Michele Pirro, Lorenzo Savadori and Andrea Dovizioso. No time. He spent much of his time having chats with his fellow Yamaha riders in their box.
The world's fastest riders are ready to hit full throttle once again. MotoGP is back. The party starts right here and now. Is this an epic battle between Bagnaia and Marquez?
Non è di colpa tua né colpa mia, ma tutti e due a terra.
Shark attack. It's the rookie sensation of Costa. It's a race win behind Martin. 3 names for the most coveted seat in MotoGP.
Calici perché io c'ho la new.
Magic Maverick Vinales, the top gun is back on top.
We don't give up until we reach the very top of this class.
Honestly, I would be off in KTM's position if they managed to lose him.
Pramac non è un occhio.
Masterpiece from world champion Pekka Bania. Whoa! Here comes Marc Marquez, one of the greatest comebacks in Grand Prix history. But here comes Martin with the element of surprise. There are more title contenders than ever, but there can be only one.
Yeah, once we're done here with After the Flag, head over to MotoGP.com and check out There Can Be Only One for unrivaled behind-the-scenes access to find the full story of how Jorge Martin realised his dream and became the MotoGP World Champion. Of course, there can be only one. The one isn't here after his crash yesterday. Day 2 completed then, Jack, and once again, it's a sign of a bike that was fully dialed in from last season, the GP24, which dominated last year. Plug in and play, and it's still quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just catch my breath first. It's quite warm downstairs. I've had to run up the stairs to get here and join you in the studio. Much more like Sepang today than it was yesterday. Let me tell you, our red foreheads probably tell that story. But yeah, no surprise there. GP24 is fast. It's certainly not going to grab many headlines around the world. Right now, it's the most complete motorcycle on the grid because they've got 12 months worth of data. They've got 3 riders out there on it that don't have to do any kind of development work. They can just focus on themselves. And that's evident by the fact that we've got Frankie Moradelli fastest, Alex Marquez 3rd fastest. However, Fermin Aldeguer 4th quickest, for me, is up there as the story of the day. They made sure he finished early because they didn't want him to get too carried away. They're very, very pleased with his progress, but as he's edging nearer and nearer to the limit of that GP24, they went, okay, today, that's enough for me. We've been impressive, you've looked impressive, but we don't need to go out there and try our luck any further. Let's just go step by step, and he's certainly right on schedule. You'd have to say ahead of schedule at this point. Very impressive stuff from Aldeguer, and that's going to be one of the key stories in 2025, one that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Aldeguer grabbed all the headlines in the shakedown. Aldeguer has now responded in the test. The battle between those two for Rookie of the Year is going to be a fascinating one to watch.
Yeah, Sonat Chantra, of course, will hope to be part of that too, but certainly given that he's probably on the least competitive machine of the 3, certainly as we stand here now, it does look like a real battle between Agura and Aldeguer. And there's no question, if you look at Fermin Aldeguer's 2024, it fell short of expectations, didn't it? Many were expecting him to win the Moto2 World Championship. Ducati had already signed him by that point, but there is no doubting the ferocious talent that Fermin Aldeguer has, and he's, of course, not taken the direct route up into MotoGP, having gone through the Junior GP and European Championship route, but Ducati saw something in him quite a long time ago, and there's no question that Fermin Aldeguer has the talent with the experience of Frankie Moradelli alongside him, who's worked with a rookie before in Fabio Giannantonio. You expect Fermin Aldeguer to be in the safest of hands.
That's the key thing for me. The hype, the pressure, all of the talk, I think got to Fermin last year. He started to believe it himself going into the year after finishing 2023 so strongly, and as a result, the results just didn't come. And as soon as they didn't come, then things just started to fall apart. But you mentioned right there the people he's now got around him. Frankie Moradelli, first and foremost, Michele Massini, Nadia Padovani, all of them had to deal last year with hype like no other because he had Marc Marquez in the box, and everyone, including us, you know, we're going to hold our hands up and say we're guilty of it as well. Well, last year at this point, talking about Marc Marquez World Championship fight, and they were able to block Marc, and Marc is pretty smart and able to do that himself, out from all of that talk, all of that hype. So suddenly they've got some very experienced heads that know how to deal with a rookie, know how to deal with the most talked about rider on the MotoGP grid. So Fermin has got the right team around him, and I think that is going to really be crucial for him throughout his development.
Yeah, these are live pictures that you're looking at from the Sepang International Circuit. Miguel Oliveira, who ended the day up inside the top 8 and also in the 157s, looking strong. Here's his teammate Jack Miller, who was the first rider outside the 57s on the 158.005. And we were chatting about this earlier, weren't we, on the Midday Live, talking about Yamaha, who I know we've covered already. I think what's key about Yamaha and what makes us believe that this progress is genuine is that we're not just talking about Fabio Quatararo putting in eye-catching lap times and putting that Yamaha up inside the top 10. The fact that all 4 of them have been competitive. Alex Rins put all 4 of the Yamahas inside the top 10 before some late shuffling around in the final hour. The fact that all riders are on the bike, the fact that all 4 riders are quick and comfortable tells you that Yamaha have made a genuine step, and it's not just Fabio Quatararo doing otherworldly things on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jack Miller yesterday, I think Elliott touched on it. The first thing that he realised, the first thing that he wanted to point out was just how much feeling he's able to get through the front end of that Yamaha, and the sector times will tell you that. Sepang is so often regarded as the best test circuit in the world, because you've got a little bit of everything here, whether it's the fast, the flowing sectors through Sector 2 in particular, when you go through turn 7 and 8 and then out again into 10, 11 and 12, or you've also got in Sector 4 the opportunity to try out that engine and just see how much top end it's got and how much drive you're able to get out of the penultimate corner and out of turn number 15 as well, to be able to get an understanding of how well the bike goes in a straight line, but then how well you can get it stopped as well. And the Yamaha in particular in Sector 2 is very, very impressive indeed, and you just wonder whether all of the changes they've made, all of the different characteristics, whether it comes to aero, whether it comes to the different chassis that they're trying, whether it comes to this new engine as well, they finally, Fabio Quatararo finally listening to the fact that power isn't everything, because Cal Crutchlow so often spoke about the debate that has been going on internally within Yamaha, where Fabio, as the key man, as the man that's leading the development direction, just wanted more power, more top speed. If I don't have top speed, I can't be competitive. They gave him that, and it completely stripped the Yamaha of the qualities that we've always known it to have, the ability to get it turned. It seems as though they've gone away from that, and now they're starting to find a direction and they're going the right way. It proves that trying to get a MotoGP bike to go fast around a circuit is far more complex than just putting in the most powerful engine you've possibly got. It's about making sure that you can accurately deliver that power through the rear tyre.
Let's talk KTM for just a moment. We'll be heading to Barcelona shortly, but before we do that, we were chatting through the day, weren't we, about Tech 3's Enea Bastianini. Yeah. Of course, he's one of a few riders who have changed manufacturers over the course of the winter. Of course, both riders within the Tech 3 box have switched. Of course, with Maverick Vinales moving from Aprilia, Enea Bastianini moving from the best bike in the field, the Ducati GP24, to that KTM. And it feels as if the adaptation process for Enea has been tougher than any other rider on the grid. Yes,
up until around 45 minutes ago, he's managed to set a 58.5, the first time all day and yesterday that he's been able to get into those 158s. Up to that point, I think he'd managed to do 5 159s. Now, to put that into a little bit of context, when we were last here in November in the sprint, Enea Bastianini did 8 straight 158s in the sprint before his final lap of the sprint being a 159.0. He then started the Grand Prix with 7 straight 159. So the fact that over a 2-day period he'd only been able to piece together 5 1-minute 59 lap times will have been concerning. And you can tell, just look at the white additions to the tank there. That is to try and get Enea as comfortable as possible. He's the only KTM rider that is currently trialling that at the moment. He's also got the aero package, which we last saw on board Jack Miller's machine at the back end of last year. It seems that they've gone away from that now, but they're throwing items at Enea going back into 2024 as well, just to try and find something to get him a little bit more settled, a little bit more comfortable on the bike. It looks as though a little bit of progress has been made, as you say. In the end, 17th with a 158.5. He did that lap time, obviously with new tyres, but more interestingly, with this brand new seat unit that the factory boys have been trying out all day as well. That seems as though that's the direction that KTM are going to take into 2025. So they gave him pretty much everything that they've possibly got on the table. And a 158.5, 17th, 1.4 seconds slower than what he was able to go this time last year when he topped day 2 of the Sepang test. It's been a challenge so far for Enea.
Challenge for Enea Bastianini, but of course we still have 3 days of pre-season testing to go. 1 here and a couple in Buriram next week. Let's head back to HQ then and Barcelona, where Elliott York and Kiko Giles are standing by. Of course, we've been chatting about KTM, and of course, they can't blame their riders if they're uncompetitive this season with such a star-studded Tech 3 lineup to go with Brad Binder and Pedro Acosta in the factory team.
World champions everywhere you look, Lewis, in both teams. I mean, there is no excuse this year, particularly after the comments of Brad Binder, that's been said, that was really happy with the amount of parts that KTM have brought to the Sepang test. Let's go back to Tech 3, though. Bastianini versus Vinales. 16th and 17th on the times today. Day 2, you've got to be asking questions. So let's ask. Look, these are all the teams that have changed. KTM, Binder and Miller last year. It's Binder and Acosta this year. But Tech 3, at least for the factory team, they have one rider who is still the same. Tech 3, it's all change. It's Bastianini and Vinales. Now, both riders out, winners. Both riders world champions. But we've seen at times, KTM, it's a difficult bike to adapt to, and it seems that whatever they do over in Sepang at the minute, there's just not really anything that's clicking with an air.
Not quite clicking yet, but I think we need to be a little bit cautious how fast we go into judging these two riders. We know how methodical they both are. We know that Enea is not going to push at 100% unless he is 100% happy. And also testing all these new items, the big new aero, they've got the new air intake as well, which affects the engine characteristics, the new tail unit as well, side fairings on the aero. It's a lot that KTM are throwing at this bike to try and bridge that gap to Ducati. So it's a lot for these guys to take in. They're very experienced, multiple race winners in this class, as you say, world champions in their own right as well. It looks like Sector 2 and Sector 3, especially for Enea, who, like Jack said, has improved in the last hour or so. When we were looking at the times earlier, and already now, Enea is a couple of tenths off, similar to Maverick Vinales, to be fair. They're next to each other on the timesheets. They're a couple of tenths off in Sector 2 and Sector 3 on Firmin Aldeguer. Obviously, that's the GP24 of last year, but remember, Aldeguer is a rookie. Is of course, Enea's bike that he was riding last year, so it's a good comparison to make. So he's losing at least 4 tenths, just over 4 tenths in those middle two sectors, and a little bit more in Sector 1 and Sector 4 as well. But it's those two areas, Sector 2 and Sector 3, the tight and twisty, some fast-flowing as well, sectors that they're just losing out on at this moment in time.
And 4 tenths, Al, just to put it in perspective, covers the top 4. So if you're losing it in half the lap, you're going to suffer in the timesheets as well.
Well, that's just how close MotoGP is, of course, and KTM are trying their best, throwing everything at it to bridge that gap. And we know Binder was very positive about the day. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys say at the end of today. Obviously, another day at it, testing more parts. They've improved their times. We know Enea was a little bit disappointed yesterday speaking over in Sepang. So it is going to be interesting to see what they have to say at the end of today, just to see what their mood is like. Have improvements been made? How much they've pushed on the lap times as well, because that's an important factor as well.
And what about Mav? He's on screen. He's looking to become the first rider to do 4 race wins with one manufacturer. It's not easy.
Definitely not easy, no. Look, Maverick, we know how positive he is, upbeat he is. We know yesterday that he barely changed anything on the bike. Today he's testing more parts. We've seen him on track. I think these pictures show the new aero, the big new front aero that both Vinales and Bastianini are testing for the first time. Binder and Pedro Acosta are more used to that as well. So, look, it's a lot of new parts to try on a new bike, on a familiar track. So I think the adaptation, we shouldn't read too much into it yet. Let's see tomorrow, because we're going to see sprint simulations, potentially full race simulations tomorrow as well, which we're going to have a look at. So that's going to give us a better indication as to where they are compared to the others, especially in the time attack, because KTM struggled a little bit in the time attack last year, getting the rear end to grip as much as the Ducati to power them out the corner. So that, I think, will be a better indication as to where they sit tomorrow at the end of the Sepang test.
And for that, they've obviously got the new seat unit. Looks like there's a mass damper housed in there as well. So keep an eye on that. More tech stuff to come tomorrow, of course. Questions coming in, of course. Join the conversation. Can Vinales become the first rider to win with 4 bikes in MotoGP history? It's got to be his target. He can. Whether or not he does, that's a totally different question.
It's a big ask. Look, at this moment in time, you probably lean towards no. But KTM now have 4 world champions on their bike. That's going to help massively. Of course, Augusto Fernandez struggled last year. Pedro Acosta was a rookie, so that was different, although he did really, really well last year. But this is the year KTM should be progressing their bike into a race-winning package on a regular basis. That's what we hope. That's what the fans at home hope as well. We want as many bikes up there as possible. And you feel like, in terms of the standings last year anyway, KTM are the closest. Of course, Aprilia were the only team to win a race last year other than Ducati, but KTM on a more regular basis were closer. So he can. At this moment in time, you're probably leaning towards no, but we've got to expect Vinales, not in the first half of the season, you feel, but certainly into the latter half of the campaign to be pushing podiums, you'd feel.
And don't forget as well, they've got 4 KTMs. We're talking about the 2 on screen right now. But, of course, the top KTM was Pedro Acosta. He is 7th place. Is Bastianini struggling more than normal? You've got to say yes, because, okay, he's one of those more methodical riders. And it's going to take time, but they've tried different seat units, all the ergonomic, the normalities to get someone comfortable. They've put in 2024 parts at it, as Jack said, and it just isn't clicking for whatever reason.
Yeah, not yet. We've already touched on it, so we don't need to go into all that detail again. He is struggling, I think, probably more than we expected. But as we say, as you just said as well, he's a methodical rider. He's not going to push 100% unless he's 100% happy. He clearly is not 100% happy at the minute. Neither is Maverick. That's visible to see. Probably no one is 100% happy, apart from potentially Morbidelli and Aldeguer, you have to feel. And Alex Marquez up there as well, and Quatararo won't be 100% happy, of course, but he's up there. So I think let's judge KTM, especially Bastianini and Vinales, at the end of the day tomorrow, when hopefully we get some time attacks, because that's the really juicy stuff we can get stuck into, and then we can assess a little bit better.
On a more positive note, and you just mentioned the name I want to talk about, Fermin Aldeguer. I mean, a rookie in 2025, race winner last year in Moto2, that amazing end to 2023. But Fermin Aldeguer has been absolutely rapid. And as you can see on your screens, the shakedown test, that was just last week, a 1:58.421. If you look from yesterday, he got that time down nearly 0.4 of a second, 58.035. But today, on day 2, and literally we're talking less than, 6 days on a MotoGP bike at this point, a 1:57.5, he's 4th on the time screens and less than 0.4 off. It's remarkably impressive.
It's very impressive. And look, we expected a lot of Fermin, especially last year. I think we all did, heading into that Moto2 campaign. As Jack mentioned, there was a lot of pressure on Aldeguer's young shoulders. He's only started 67 GPs in Moto2. So he's a real fresh face, but a superb talent. And this is just proof of how much he's improved in the test that he's done. He's only a couple of tenths off, incidentally, what Pedro Acosta was able to do at the end of day 3 last year in Sepang. Now, not to our knowledge has Aldeguer properly pushed on a soft tyre, low fuel load for a real proper time attack as of yet. We're expecting that, as I say, to come tomorrow. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what Aldeguer can do. He looks pretty comfy on that GP24 already. Clearly very confident. As Jack was saying, the team had to pull him in just to settle him down because he was getting very excited, and understandably so. We've got pictures of Fermin Aldeguer on screen here, and he just looked right at home on that Ducati, doesn't he? So, yeah, these times he's improved nearly a second from the end of the shakedown to day 2 in Sepang. Let's see how much he can improve tomorrow.
And you mentioned that name. It was on the name of everyone's lips last year, Pedro Acosta. He's the reference rookie.
Absolutely, yeah. And if Fermin Aldeguer can leave Sepang, well, he's already in the realms of what Acosta did last year. Okay, you can. The bike is better than the KTM was last year.
And with more data.
Exactly. But coming into this year and coming into last year, there's so much more expectation on Acosta. There's a lot of expectation on Aldeguer. We know what he can do. We know how talented he is. But Acosta was right up here as Taz as the new Marc Marquez, for example. Not so much for Aldeguer, but if he can leave Sepang, we're setting a faster time than Acosta did last year, then we're going to start to get really excited. Of course, 2 more days coming in Buriram as well to see what he can do there on a new track on the Ducati as well, a different track. So it's going to be interesting. But Aldeguer has been really, really impressive. This positive sort of progression has been super, super good for Aldeguer.
I mean, the good thing is that, okay, Fermini's got the experience here at Sepang, and after the Buriram test, he'll go to Buriram prepared. But we don't know what he's going to be like when we get to somewhere that he doesn't know. In Argentina, for example, where we had a year off last year, a Kota, which is all different on a MotoGP bike. It's a different animal.
And the good thing for me, for Aldeguer, is he's on a race-winning bike, a championship-winning bike from last year. It's not throwing new parts at it. They're just testing sort of different settings, getting him comfortable on that bike. So he's not really got to sort of get his head around trying different parts here and there on the bike. He's got to get used to what he's got, work on the settings and ergonomics to get himself comfortable on the machine. It looks like they've done that already. Frankie Moradelli has already said it was a great shakedown test and a great day 1. He's going to probably tweet later, Frankie Moradelli, about day 2 as well. So looking forward to seeing that. But Aldeguer just really, really impressive at this moment in time. Don't want to heap too much pressure on his young shoulders. Obviously, it's only testing. We're trying not to get too excited, but this is really, really good stuff already from Fermin Aldeguer.
And not just about the rider, about the team as well. Grini won races last year. Frankie Moradelli has been around in World Championships for over 2 decades. These are people, it's a group of people that is not just a team, it's a family. It's a great environment for Fermin to enter.
Yeah, this is the guy they had in their team last year, and it doesn't get much better than that. Marc Marquez, the 8-time world champion, would have given Grini a whole heap of experience and knowledge priceless, exactly that, about racing, about what they can improve on. And they learnt so much last year, including Frankie Moradelli, who can relay that information onto Fermin Aldeguer. It's going to be a different year for Grini Racing, you feel, but the signs are that they're going to be at least challenging for top 6s at the early stages of the season, if not potential podiums on the way for Aldeguer. I don't want to heap too much pressure on the young shoulders of the rookie at this moment in time. But I think we're starting to get into the realms of expecting big things from Aldeguer in 2025.
Tomorrow's going to be the big day for Fermin as
100%,
far as
100%.
times are concerned, but I think we're just about ready to get back to Sepang. It looks a bit darker where you are. Is it raining or is it time for dinner? Jack and Lewis, back over to you guys.
Well, the answer to the second question is an affirmative yes. The answer to the first question is at the moment it looks okay. There is some potential forecast for some rain tomorrow. We had a few drops of rain around about 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon, but fortunately it didn't amount to much. Let's touch upon one topic that I know you've been keen to talk about on this show, Jack, and that's Honda. We haven't come to them yet on this show, but when we look at the timing screens, all 5 manufacturers have been able to lap in the 157s today. Only Johann Zarco was able to get anywhere near a 57 here in Sepang at the Grand Prix last year for Honda. To see Joan Mir up in there gives Honda some crumbs of comfort, I guess.
Well, that's the fastest ever lap that Honda have done around Sepang, as simple as that. Joan Mir today has done a quarter of a second quicker than what Johann Zarco was able to do in Q2 in November. So that right there shows that progress has been made. And you can just see on the bike as well that progress has been made. The aerodynamics package is radically new this year, and it's very, very similar to what we see on the Ducati, which you feel isn't a carbon copy because they haven't had the time to be able to look at theirs and mimic it as they have. So it's clear that they've found a direction when it comes to that. Obviously, as the guys were talking about when it comes to KTM, the addition of the new seat unit there, a brand new one, radically new down at Honda, which hopefully is able to touch on some of the issues that they've had, in particular rear chatter with this new rear tyre that was introduced last year. And above everything else, we saw Joan Mir smiling yesterday. We've not been able to say that very often over the past couple of years. He's not been having much fun over the past couple of years, crashing far more frequently than he would want to, than Honda would want to. They didn't have a single top 10, a stat that I know that we've rolled out quite frequently throughout the entirety of 2024 in a Grand Prix, but they're not going to be challenging for wins. Certainly in the first half of 2025, I don't think at all in 2025, but it looks as though they've at least closed the gap, and at least it appears as though after hitting the bottom of the barrel in 2024, they've started an upward trajectory.
Well, let's move across to Aprilia then, and it's time for a quick substitution here in the studio. Jack Appleyard is going to hop over to the broadcaster set to get all the latest interviews. Paolo Bonora joins us. Thanks very much for joining us, Paolo. Now, of course, there's no getting away from the fact that this test did not start in the best fashion for Aprilia. Has day 2 been a little smoother for you?
Yeah, to be honest with you, we'd like to see the positive things of this. For sure, first of all, we are so happy that Jorge today is fine. He feels in comfort. He sleep good during this night. And he didn't have any kind of particular problem. So we are happy about this, because after that crash, everybody was thinking about him. So we are happy. And to be honest with you, the difficult thing of yesterday was to keep him calm, because he wanted to rejoin the track. He wanted to know how the test is going on, what we are testing. And so it was funny, because his recovery was so good. Tomorrow he will have the surgery in Spain. And now we are only waiting for the medical examination and the official statement from them. So we now are waiting for only positive things regarding him, because we need his power, we need his talent, and we are waiting for him.
Of course, the sign of a good team is always the ability to adapt to any potential crisis. So how has the plan changed following Jorge's injury? Of course, Lorenzo Savadori came in today. So how have you moved things around? Has Marco taken on any extra load? What's the plan been?
Yeah, in this situation, we were lucky, because we did a very good shakedown with Lorenzo. We test all the parts that we had in plan. So at the end, we had, before the official IRTA test, already a clear picture of the advantages and disadvantages of the new parts. Lorenzo did a very good job, and to be realistic and fully honest, also Marco during these 2 days gave us a lot of information, clear information. He was stable in his plan. He didn't look at the times, the lap time, but he was fully focused on his plan, and he did a very positive test for us.
Yeah, how impressed have you been with the progress of Marco? We spoke to your technical director, Fabiano Sterlicchini, earlier in the day, and he was very impressed by Marco's feedback. Have you also seen that?
For me as well. Absolutely positive feedback about him, because he was very clear on the comments. For the engineer side, was very clear on all the area that affect the performance. So he was very specific on the electronic, on the engine, on the aerodynamic. During today, we test many topics, in particular on the electronic side, something that you can't see in the video, and other things that probably you have seen regarding the aerodynamics. And the positive thing is that many parts was confirmed already by Lorenzo, and from the Marco comment was absolutely the same positive comment.
So when you look at the 2025 bike as it stands at the moment, what strengths and weaknesses do you see with the bike? What areas do you feel you still need to work on, and what areas do you feel you're optimized at the moment?
Yeah, after the Barcelona test of the last test of the 2024, there was a clear picture about our bike in comparison with our competitor. We worked a lot during the winter break. Was not a break for us, but for sure we improve. In particular, in the stability of the rear was the main, the weak point that both Marco and Jorge said during the last test. We work a lot, not only one specific area, but we touch all the area, in particular the electronic, in the engine character, and the chassis setup, and we find something during the winter. We found something during the winter. We test with Lorenzo, and we have the confirmation with Marco, but not only with Marco, also with the Tracausa side, because we consider them absolutely as not a satellite, but as a partner. So we are happy about the result of Gura as well, because considering that he is a rookie, he performed very well during this first part of the season.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. We wish you well for the rest of the test, and hopefully you can pass on our best wishes to Jorge Martin. We hope to see him back, if not next week, at the season opener in Broome. Thanks, Paolo.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much. Paolo Bonora joining us live on After the Flag. We can now get some live reaction from one of the riders who really shone today inside the top three for the second day in a row. Monster Energy Yamaha's Fabio Quatararo speaking to Jack.
Fabio, another day here at Sepang, another positive day as well. It looks as though you guys are starting to move in the right direction. Can we say that at this point?
Right direction, I think yes. Then we are working a lot in the area of grip. That is the one that we struggle the most. The one we try to figure out how we can gain is quite difficult, because it's many years we try it. But yeah, it looks like we're going into the right direction, and hopefully tomorrow we can find a bit more.
We've seen a couple of chassis across all four bikes today. Have you managed to find a direction with that, something that you're comfortable with?
Yeah, and I think then also every rider have his riding style. So maybe to some riders the new chassis is better. I prefer, to be honest, the standard one that we had in Barcelona test. That was for me slightly better, and yeah, I think that today we try also Michelin tires. That was quite okay. So yeah, let's see tomorrow what will bring.
Last year, so often, especially at the start of the year, you spoke about just how physical of a bike it was to ride. Is it a lot more fun to ride at the moment?
Yeah, really fun. To be honest, I'm enjoying. It's difficult to make only one lap time because we are trying so many things that when you put a new tire, you are not lost, but you know you don't have your bike because you are trying a lot. But to be honest, I can be really satisfied. Me and the team with what we are doing. Still, like I said, a lot to do. But I think that compared to last year, we are in a much more better shape. Sorry.
Do you think we might see a 56 tomorrow?
56 for sure. If
confident.
Yeah, let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
56 for sure. If I am doing it, I don't know. Oh. But for sure, the red bike will be in the 56. So our goal is to be closer as possible to the red bike.
Good to see you smiling, Fabio.
Thank you.
Yeah, it certainly is good to see Fabio Quatararo with a smile on his face, although, as mentioned, he expects a 156 tomorrow. He's just not convinced whether that will necessarily come from him or from a Yamaha, but we'll be watching those times closely. And if you are joining us tomorrow, and if you're going to be waking up in the bright hours of the morning, if you're back in Europe, those first couple of hours are going to be worth keeping an eye on, because generally here in Sepang, with the cooler conditions in the morning, we will see those times tumble. Well, we have seen some riders tumble over the course of the day, some very high-profile crashes over the course of the day. Now, one rider who was shrouded in a bit of mystery this morning was Pedro Acosta, because he went down, and it was an awful long time before we saw that motorcycle return to the box. And Turn 5 has been a real problem spot, hasn't it, over the course of this test so far? We saw earlier in the show 2 crashes there for Fabio Di Giannantonio. Turn 5 caught out Pedro Acosta there earlier on today. As you can see, the motorcycle making its way nearly all the way to the tyre barrier. A high-speed crash for the former Moto2 world champion. He wasn't alone, though. This is coming into turn number 9. This was later in the day. As you can see, 20 minutes before the checkered flag, Marquez going down on the way into turn 9. Of course, that is not a corner that the Ducati Lenovo team have good memories of. It was right there where, I guess you could say, Pekka Bania's world championship defence went up in smoke when he crashed there in the sprint back in October. And this was Pekka Bania himself coming into turn 15. Tough corner, that one, off camber. Many different lines can be taken through that final corner. That one certainly wasn't the optimal line for Pekka Bania as he slid off into the gravel trap. Absolutely no harm done to rider and very little damage done to the motorcycle. He brought that very quickly back to the pits. Let's bring you some more reaction, though. We've just heard from Aprilia's team manager, Paolo Bonora. We can now get the thoughts of one of his riders a little bit earlier on in the day, earlier than the other riders. Marco Bezzecchi came to speak to us. Here are his thoughts when he spoke to Jack.
Marco, the start of a big second day for you here, the only man in the Aprilia factory box. How has the morning been?
Yeah, it has been a good second morning. Also yesterday afternoon we felt some positive on the bike, but this morning even more. So we are following the plan. Of course, we have many things to try in terms of electronic side, aerodynamics, engine and everything, but yeah, quite happy with the work done. Today the condition is more tough, so feeling positive today is even better than yesterday.
How different was the plan today than what it was going to be? Have Aprilia asked for an extra effort given the circumstances?
Well, not really. I mean, I have to try a lot of stuff, of course. If we had Jorge, we could split the job, but in any case, even if I had Jorge with me, it was going to be a tough test anyway. So it's a shame to don't have him in the box, because 2 comments were important for our guys. But I'm trying my best to give them the best feedbacks that I can to try to develop the bike and try to choose the correct options for for all the championship.
Of course, join us at lunchtime. Still a little bit to go in the day, but the last little stint that you did out on track was your best one yet. Lap times looked pretty consistent as well. Was that with new tyres, with old tyres? Because they were in a pretty strong mid-58 range, which I guess shows some strong pace.
Yeah, I had new tyres, not in a time attack setting, so full fuel tank, and we were following, as I said, the plan, continuing to try all the stuff. Was important to try what I tried with new tyres, so this is why I needed to put new tyres. So yeah, the pace was good.
It seems like you're pleased with it.
Yeah, fairly pleased. Marco Bezzecchi. We can immediately hand back over to Jack Appleyard now because he can speak to the 93. We saw Marc Marquez going down a few moments ago, the replay of his crash. Let's get the story of Marc Marquez's day. He's with Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, Lewis, just seeing that late crash at turn 9 mark. But has that dampened the spirits too much? What's the overall vibe on the end of day 2?
Yeah, had a typical crash on that turn 9 that is the slowest corner of the circuit, but yeah, we did all the job today, all what we have on the plan. I was very careful all the day because yeah, we have a specific job to do, that is try to decide the direction for the 2025, especially about the engine and aero. And yeah, Ducati wanna be very precise on that, and at the same point conservative because they wanna choose the correct decision. And yeah, we test a lot of things today. I think we already understand which is the way, but tomorrow we need to reconfirm. And yeah, last time of the day I put new tire to do the time attack, but unlucky I crashed on that turn 9.
2 days, and sounds like still not 100% sure engine-wise. Is that the case? And secondly, both you and Pekka saying the same things when it comes to this new engine.
Yeah, still we need to understand well, especially because we must to decide the direction because in 2 weeks and a half, 3 weeks, we will start the season. So yeah, tomorrow still we need to retry again and evaluate all the things.
Why is it taken up to this point that you still don't know which engine to go for? What are the negatives that the new one clearly has?
Especially because we need to be super sure which is the direction. We know that the 24 package is competitive, and we need to be super sure, or we need to see a clear positive aspect in the 25, because when you homologate the engine will be for 2 years, so we need to understand well.
Just finally as well, we've seen on Pecco's side the fairly new aero package with the big side pods, more of a 25 direction, whereas you seem to be alternating with still quite a few 24 parts. How much of a challenge is it to make that 2-year jump and skip 24? Are you almost having to learn 2 bikes throughout this pre-season?
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult things for me. Because when I jump to one bike to the other one are 2 new bikes for me, and this is something that I need to be super concentrated and very precise. But at the moment we have a very similar comments with Pecco, and this is important.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks to Marc Marquez, thanks to Jack Appleyard. So clearly still some work to be done from a Ducati point of view to be fully happy and fully settled on the direction they're going in for the upcoming season. But hey, this is what testing is for, and I don't think anyone is doubting that Ducati are going to be fighting at the sharp end again this season, given how strong that 2024 package was. At the end of the day, Marc Marquez, as mentioned, was 14th. 1 place behind him was Luca Marini on the number 10 for the newly named Honda HRC Castrol squad. We can head straight back over to Jack and get the thoughts of the Italian. Over to Jack with Luca Marini.
Yeah, this is the plan. Tomorrow will be more fun.
It's very busy day today as well.
Yeah, super busy. Today the focus was on the aero. I had a lot of different combination of wings and fairings, but finally I'm satisfied because at the end of the day we found the correct one. So just we need to check if it will be available in Buriram, or just we need to wait a little bit more because our standard fairing is is pretty good. So we just need to make a development of that one and try to improve in all the sectors, in turning, in braking and in acceleration. But I would say that the small step that we had today was super positive. So tomorrow will be important to focus on the new engine and try to find the performance and try to make a good lap times.
Also tomorrow maybe is the day to try a time attack and also maybe a sprint or race simulation.
Yeah, this is the plan. Tomorrow will be more focus on the performance, try to put together the best package that we have, the best bike, the best setting, and see what we can achieve as a lap time and also for sure a sprint simulation.
Thank you, Luca.
Thank you.
Hacemos un...
Yeah, that wasn't Jack Appleyard putting on an accent. That was Emilio Vasquez asking the questions there to Luca Marini. So Honda are making steps in the right direction. Certainly if you look at Joan Mir's performance today into the 1:57s and his fastest ever lap of the Sepang circuit. But still plenty to go before Honda are back where they feel they need to be. Let's cross back over then to Barcelona and get some more analysis from Kiko Giles and Elliott York. In fact, before we do that, we have to take a diversion, but trust me, there's a very good reason. The 2022 and 2023 MotoGP World Champion, Pekka Bania, is standing by and ready to speak to us. We can see Kiko and Elliott on screen, but I believe before we go to them, we're going to hear from Pekka Bania. So let's cross over to Jack, who's with Pekka Bania.
I am indeed, as Pekka waves to the fans back at home watching After the Flag, and I'm sure looking forward to getting your comments after what looked like another busy day 2 here in Sepang. How was it, Pekka?
It was good. Honestly, I was expecting to do more laps, but after my crash of the morning, we just needed to wait a bit more, and we used that time also to change something big on the bike. So I had to stay calm a bit and for more than 1.5 hours. But was good because then we tried something different and it worked quite well. So we are moving forward, and was not easy considering that we had two different bikes. So with my crash, wasn't easy to rebuild it and take an advantage also from it. But thanks to my team, we did another step. We are closing a bit the gap between the new bike and the previous one, the GP24. And right now the new engine looks very good in terms of performance. But we are closing the gap, but we are still missing something on braking zone, and we have to be focused on it. And will not be easy because the time left is not that much, and we have to be very calm on choosing the new engine, because the one we will choose will be for 2 seasons. So we have to be calm. The GP24 was incredible already last year, so the base is already fantastic. We just need to be sure in terms of performance that the 25 can be better, and looks that the margin and is there. So let's see.
I'm no body language expert, but I can see there's a smile there. How much is that down to that final run of the day? You went out with new tyres, you had the 25 aero package, the new rear seat additions,
Aesthetics.
You had the chassis as well. I imagine the new engine, that surely proves that the 25 is a step forward.
Honestly, was a bit ashamed, because this morning when I crashed, I wasn't doing the time attack because the fuel tank was full, but I was doing already a fantastic 57 low, and then during the rest of the day was more difficult to reach again this lap time for the heat temperatures, because today we reached 36 degrees. But apart from that, the last part of the session I was with the new fairing, and was not just the fairing, was also something other parts there were new, and wasn't that bad. So was in some areas was better, in some other areas was worst, but for braking was better. So this is great, and maybe we can also mix with the old one for the things that are not working well. But I'm quite confident that today was a super important day, and tomorrow we will try to build the base for starting the Thailand setup.
You seem very sure that this new engine is the way to go. Very complimentary and very positive about it. I didn't get the same vibes from Mark. Are you saying the same things, or have you got different opinions on that?
Honestly, it's incredible that for the first time in my career, I have the same exactly feeling as my teammate. And this is great because it's helping a lot the engineers to develop. And it's true that both had a very good feeling with the new engine. But both have the same questions about something about the new engine. So we have to continue like this. Tomorrow we will have the last day, and will be important to finish the job done. They started today and started yesterday to understand in which area improve.
Just finally, I spoke to Fabio, asked him whether we might see a 56 tomorrow. He said, maybe not from me, but definitely from a red bike. Is that possible?
Considering the way I did today, that my lap times, I think that 56 already today in the time attack mode was already there. But it's not something that we are searching. We know that we are very fast on time attack, and we don't need to show during a test right now. So tomorrow will be the day. Tomorrow morning, just to re-enter a bit in the mood, but. For me, from my side, it's not very important right now. It's more important to finish the job.
Thanks, Pekka.
That's all.
Thanks to Jack Appleyard, thanks to Pekka Bania. That smile kind of told its own story, didn't it? Pekka Bania and Ducati have got plenty up their sleeves that we haven't seen just yet. Well, as promised, let's now head over to Barcelona and back to HQ. We just took a long lap penalty en route there to hear from Pekka Bania, but now we can head over back once again to Elliott and Kiko.
Don't worry, Pecco's worth waiting. Pecco's worth interrupting and making us wait. That is for certain. Thank you very much, Lewis. And interesting to hear Pecco's thoughts there. Before we crack on with what we're going to talk about, just quickly, it is so important that Ducati get the engine right for this year because of the homologation freeze for 26 before the regs reset for 27.
Well, exactly that. It's more important than ever. And we know how much Pecco struggled in inverted commas because he was still quick. But he's mentioned how he struggled with the GP24 in the test and in the opening through races. He wasn't as comfortable as he wanted to be. However, we all know what he went on to do. Won 11 races. Only Marc Marquez and Valentino Rossi have done that in the MotoGP era. So, I mean, you can see his smile there as well. He's sounding positive. Just iron out a couple of issues, but it's not big issues. They sound positive on the engine, which is good. It's not like they're, oh no, this engine isn't as good. We're not really sure where we're going. They've both got the same comments about the engine and about the aero package, about the bike in general, Marc Marquez and Pekka Bania, which helps Ducati tremendous amount. So I think they're just, like you say, fine-tuning the immaculate details to try and get that bike as good as possible for 2025 and in 2026.
Let's talk Honda, 6th and 15th. Maybe not too much to talk about from Luca Marini. We heard him there that he seems happy. But Gian Mir, what an anomaly he is, because last year at the Sepang test, he was in the top 10 and he looked good and he was setting fast lap times. And obviously we know the story of the season, but is there genuine reason for Honda to be happy with what they've achieved so far after 2 days here in Sepang?
Well, listening to Luca Marini, you'd have to say yes. At the end of the day, they found a direction that he was happy with in terms of the aero setup. We know they'd had 3 bikes in each box today at the test, mix and matching different aero parts, different settings to try and find that direction. If Marini's saying they've found that direction now, that's a positive thing. Tomorrow, as we said with Aldeguer and the rest of the field, we're going to learn a lot more about where each manufacturer and each rider stacks up in terms of the order. Mir in 6th today, really good. Marini obviously down in 15th, but Marc Marquez with 14th. We can't read too much into that at this moment in time. But for Marini to say they found a direction, he sounds happy, but let's see about tomorrow in the time attack and race simulation mode to see really where Mir and Honda in general stack up.
I suppose the big question is as well, is at what level are Honda that for sure progress will have been made, but in comparison to the other manufacturers, it looks clear that Yamaha have made a step. We're not still sure on Aprilia because of the obvious reasons with Raul being out and Jorge Martin being out, Bezzecchi being new, Agura being a rookie, and Ducati and KTM. They have been that kind of benchmark, at least in the Manufacturers' Championship. Just got a question come in before we continue more about the analysis of all 5 manufacturers. Do you expect Mir and Marini to be more competitive this season? Competitive in terms of lap times, it has to be yes. They seem to be closer. All 5 manufacturers today in the 157. So that's how close it is in MotoGP. 12 riders covered by a second as well. In terms of can they be more competitive over the full season, it's hard. I think Jack said correctly earlier, the time it's going to take to actually get there is going to take a long time.
Exactly that. And Yamaha seem to have made a big step in pre-season, especially from the Barcelona test to here. That is a happy camp at this moment in time. Honda are positive. We heard from Luca Marini there. He's sounding more positive. They're finding directions. They're not just as far along the line as Yamaha are, sorry. So, yes, they're going to be more competitive, you feel, in terms of lap times for sure. You'd like to think Marini and Mir can get into the top 10 at least once this year. That's the feeling that we're going to sort of get a feeling of in these pre-season tests in the first couple of races of the season. But I think in the latter half of 2025, that is where we're going to see the real potential of Honda in 25 and into 26 before obviously the new regs come in 2027. But yes, they can be more competitive. I think they will be more competitive. As I say, though, we are going to learn and they are going to learn a lot more tomorrow and obviously across the 2 days in Buriram as well.
It has been time for the Japanese manufacturers to play catch-up. They are catching up. And speaking of which, catching up we will do to Sepang, to Malaysia. Lewis, Jack, who is it? I'm just seeing through the darkness that Lewis is still there. So over to you, mate.
Thanks, guys. And it's just a perfect time to come back to us, given you're talking Honda, because as you mentioned, 3/4 of Honda's lineup, very experienced. Joan Mir, Luca Marini, and of course, Johan Zarco. Of course, 1/4 of Honda's lineup is very inexperienced. How is the adaptation to MotoGP going for Sonat Chantra? Let's get his thoughts right now.
Well, Sonat, another opportunity to improve, and we have seen you already on track, actually doing good lines, and your lap time improved. So, how was the feeling after today?
Yeah, today is a second day of official test. Also, we have something new on the bike, and also we was walking, and also was on the way was so nice. Also, me and also our team was so happy about the lap time, and also like I say, day by day we will improve, and also we also make a step was very nice, and we will keep going like this.
And for tomorrow, maybe it's in the plan do a race simulation, maybe a sprint simulation.
Yeah, tomorrow me and the team was we was plan to make the long run. For tomorrow we make a less lap, and let's see what's how is my physical body, and should be good.
Thank you very much, Sonat. Good luck for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're gonna enjoy hearing Sonat Chantra a lot through this season. He is such a fun guy to talk to and to listen to. And of course, we hope that Sonat Chantra is competitive. It's been a tricky adaptation, of course, as it would be for any MotoGP rookie, but no less on a Honda. So far, it's going okay. We spoke to his crew chief, Klaus Noles, earlier in the week, and he's pretty happy with how his young charge is going. Well, it would be remiss of us to go off the air on After the Flag at the end of day 2 without hearing from the fastest rider of the day. So let's do that now. Frankie Moradelli is with Jack.
Well, Frankie, another really positive day here at Sepang. How nice is it to see your name at the top of the timesheets?
Well, great day. It's fantastic for me, for the team to finish in P1. It's always great, and this is what the team deserves. And we've been working a lot, and that's a great thing anyway. That working so much, we were able anyway to pull out a great lap time. So I'm very happy about today. The feeling with the bike is there. We are trying to make it perfect, and it's going pretty well so far.
Of course, lap times isn't everything when it comes to testing over the last 2 days. What do you think you've been able to unlock out of the GP24 that previously you might not have been able to maximise?
Let's see. We're trying to make it better. As I said, we're trying to improve the bike and make me feel perfect on it. Let's see if we manage to do it.
Have you learnt anything new about the bike over the last 2 days?
There is always things to learn about the bike. You know, even if it's a package that I race with. Anyway, last year skipping the tests, I was more or less forced to go on average pace of the bike, and I couldn't never try something you know, out of the box and out of the range, maybe to go towards my style or my way of riding, and that's what we are doing, and yeah, that's working.
Tomorrow morning, I imagine, is going to be good fun to watch with lap times coming in from everybody. Have you got another tyre ready to go for tomorrow morning?
For sure, yeah. We had to use medium tires in the first day, basically the whole first day. And yeah, today we used the right tires to work. And then tomorrow we have some more tires.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Frankie.
Thank you.
And by the power of television, Jack Appleyard has joined us immediately. Before we hear from him and some final closing thoughts, we can head back over to Barcelona one last time before we go off the air. And guys, plenty of questions still to be answered 2 days in. What are we looking forward to on day 3?
Well, the more power of television and seeing Jack Appleyard somehow teleport, I think, from the broadcaster's set to where he is now. Yeah, Al, on a serious note, lots of things to talk about. Frankie Moradelli is one of the topics for tomorrow, so keep an eye on Fermin Aldeguer. Pekka versus Mark, that's a dynamic we spoke about yesterday. Lots to look forward to.
Exactly that, and the time attacks, as we've mentioned numerous times, are coming in the morning session. If it's dry, hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to see plenty of time attacks slotted in on low fuel, fresh tyres. You can see the riders when they're asked about it, little grin in their face to see really where they can go in terms of the morning session. So looking forward to that, and the race runs as well. Hopefully we get a full dry day so we can really get stuck into that sort of stuff and see where the teams are in terms of the tech as well. So yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. Day 3 is usually the day where we learn a lot more than day 1 and 2.
And coming up on After the Flag, of course, more analysis here in the studio. And we listened to you. You wanted more tech. You're going to get more tech. I know as much harm they do to us, your nasty comments in the YouTube channel below, you will get some more tech. So don't worry about that. That's coming up in After the Flag tomorrow with us here in Barcelona in MotoGP HQ. And as if by the power and the magic of television, we're out of here. Back to you guys in Sepang. See you tomorrow.
Thanks very much, guys. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Once again, we'll be back on the air 5:30 local time with After the Flag. And tomorrow morning is going to be electrifying, isn't it? It's generally the way here in Sepang when we go on to the final day of the test. Cooler conditions in the morning, which are generally more favourable for time attacks. I think we're going to see plenty of them.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating viewing tomorrow morning. Frankie Moradelli there said he's up for the fight. Fabio Quatararo is. Pekka Bania has thrown down the gauntlet as well. Normally in pre-season testing, around this time, we get to see lap records being smashed, and it's going to take something special given what we saw in Q2 the last time we were here, but I definitely think it's possible. And just on Frankie Moradelli, very quickly before we leave you as well, doing this job, Lewis, you almost become psychologists, you almost become therapists for these riders. They come and speak to you in good moods, they come and speak to you in bad moods and everything in between as well. Have to say, from chatting to Frankie Moradelli right there, I got the impression a weight has been lifted off his shoulders. That's a new Frankie Moradelli. That's the Frankie Moradelli of old. It's good to see him back.
Good to see Frankie back, who will be on top, though, when the sun sets on the Sepang test this time tomorrow. Make sure you're with us. We'll be live on social media, the Midday Live, 3 p.m. local time. 5:30 we'll be with you once again for After the Flag. 30 minutes before the checker flag comes out. Stay on air for an hour afterwards to bring you all the latest reaction and analysis. My thanks to Jack, my thanks to Kiko and Elliott back in Barcelona. We will see you tomorrow for the final day of the Sepang test. Don't miss it.